Okay, statistical significance, a result that is very unlikely to occur by chance. It is built on hypothesis testing, the normal distribution, and p-values. That's going to be way later in chapter 6, 8, and 9. Okay, so say we've got a 1,000,000-mile radius, and there's only 2 cars in that 1,000,000-mile radius. Would it be likely that those 2 cars are going to get into a wreck? Probably not. Say they do. Okay, that was an unlikely chance for that to occur, so that had statistical significance to it. Okay, now beware of biased information. So it's a result from a sample that does not represent the population, or statistical studies that systematically favor certain outcomes by, say, not asking a certain group of people a certain question. So you leave those people out of your study because you want to push it towards a certain result. Okay? Intentionally selecting a biased sample in order to produce misleading statistics is very unethical, and it actually results in a lawsuit. Okay, you can look up this lawsuit that I have linked right here, but you won't be able to press it. It should be in Canvas under the modules, so you can go look that up. But if you have misleading statistics and you get that published, or you give that to some kind of company, that is highly unethical, and they could sue you over that. And this is why we have a lawsuit for that particular case. Okay, types of bias in a sample. Voluntary response bias. People choose whether they want to participate or not. And anytime you have that, you are going to have non-response bias. So some of the people are not going to respond. Okay, so surveys with many non-respondents because a certain proportion of people who are asked to participate refuse to do so. Self-interest bias. We kind of already talked about it. People who have an interest in the outcome of an experiment. Many advertisers contain data claiming to show the product being advertised is superior to its competitors, so you buy their product over everybody else's. Social acceptability bias. People who are reluctant to admit to behavior that may reflect negatively on them. Because people want to be viewed in a positive light. So if answering a question in a way that's going to make them look bad, they may either outright lie or kind of tweak it just a little bit to make it sound better. Okay, because people want to be viewed as a good person, right? Leading question bias. Some questions are worded in a way that suggests a particular response. So say I have 2 pens, a red one and a blue one, and I say, do you want this beautiful blue pen or this ugly, nasty red pen? Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I've worded it to where I'm hoping you choose the blue pen because I said it was beautiful, where the red pen I said was ugly and nasty. Okay. Sampling bias, when some members of the population are more likely to be included in the sample than others. Really big one is convenient sampling, and we'll talk about that more in 1.2. Alright, so let's look and see if these are biased or not. A bank sent out questionnaires to a simple random sample of 500 customers asking whether they would like the bank to extend its hours. 80% of those returning the questionnaire said that they would like the bank to extend its hours. Of the 500 questionnaires, 20 were returned. 2 things. Okay, 500 were sent out, 20 were returned. I've got non-response. Also, since there was a survey that was sent out, you can choose to respond to it or not. Voluntary response bias. So you got 2 things going on there. A television newscaster invites viewers to email their opinions about whether the U.S. Congress is doing a good job in handling the economy. More than 100,000 people sent in an opinion. Okay? Same exact thing as the first one. Some people chose to respond. Some people didn't. Non-response. Because they had the option to respond or not, voluntary response bias. Police department conducted a survey in which police officers interviewed members of their community to ask their opinions on the effectiveness of the police department. The police chief reported that 90% of the people interviewed said they were satisfied with the performance of the police department. Okay, can you imagine? A police officer is coming up to your door and they knock on your door. You open up, there's a police officer, and they say, "Hey, are we doing a good job?" What are you going to say? They're standing right in front of you. You going to tell them no? I guess some people will, but most people are going to say, "Yeah, y'all are doing good. Please don't arrest me. Can I close the door? Can we go?" Alright, so this one would be socially acceptability bias. They don't want to be looked down on by giving them a negative review. They'll go ahead and say, "Yeah, you're doing great. Let me go on with my day." Okay. A sign in a restaurant that claims that 95% of their customers claim or believe them to have the best food in the world. Well, of course they're going to say that 95% of all their customers say that. That is a self-interest bias because they want more people to come to their restaurant and eat their food. Okay. Body measurements are obtained randomly by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Center for Health Statistics. There's no bias there. One way you can tell, randomly. Random kind of gets rid or cancel out the bias within a sample or a survey, not survey, but a sample. Okay. An article in the Journal of Nutrition noted that chocolate is rich in flavonoids. The article notes regular consumption of foods rich in flavonoids reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. The study received funding from the chocolate manufacturers company. Okay, so that's great news. We can just go out and buy a whole bunch of chocolate because it's really good for us now. Well, no. Look where the study got its money from. Chocolate manufacturers. So of course this article is going to say chocolate is good for you because they're getting money from the chocolate company. Okay? So this one would be a self-interest bias. They're interested in getting more money from that company. So they're going to say, yeah, chocolate is good. They're not going to say it's bad for you because the chocolate manufacturer will stop funding them. Okay. Super important thing in statistics. Correlation does not imply causation. Okay? Concluding that one variable causes another variable when in fact the variables are only correlated or associated together. Okay, so two variables that may seem linked, smoking and pulse rate. Okay, I cannot say that smoking causes your pulse rate to go up or down. I can only say that they're correlated. Increased smoking causes increased pulse rate, or increased smoking causes decreased pulse rate. Okay. Another thing that's super important in statistics is samples must be taken randomly because you want your sample to represent your population, because that's what you're ultimately trying to describe as the population. You're just using the sample because it's smaller and easier to work with in order to find out information and then transfer that to the population. So randomly we get rid of the bias that are in your sample and will make sure you get all of the characteristics in that sample that are also in the population, so the sample will represent the population well. So the correct way to collect data. Number 1 or number 2? Number 1, a survey of 721 subjects involved the providing of personal information when using Wi-Fi hotspots. The survey subjects were internet users who responded to a question that was posted on the electronic edition of USA Today. Option number 2. In a survey of 514 humans resource. Let me start over. Number 2. In a survey of 514 human resource professionals, each was asked about the importance of the appearance of a job applicant. The survey subjects were randomly selected by Harris Interactive Pollsters. Okay? So, number 1, they posted it to the internet. So people could, when they're scrolling, could keep scrolling, or they could choose to answer that. Voluntary response bias. Also, they'll have non-response bias as well. Number 2, how were the subjects collected? Randomly. Okay, so the correct way to collect data, make sure it is random.